my executive assistant, got a phone call from a lady in Birmingham, Alabama. At the end of the conversation, she said, Zig, she said, I believe this woman thinks she's got an impossible problem, but I believe you can solve that problem with her in just a few minutes if you will spend that time with her. I said, well, Laurie, tell her to meet me backstage. I'll get there about 10 minutes early. My schedule was such that was about all I had. Well, I got there, and I was on backstage behind the curtain on one side. She spotted me from the other side, and as she walked across the stage, I have never seen as much anger in a human being in my life as I saw in her. She almost started crying when she saw me. She said, oh, I'm just so glad to see you. I got this horrible job. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate everybody down there. I mean, you talking about negative nails, she was it. She said, can you help me? Now, understand, I've only got about 10 minutes. So I looked at her, and one thing I have learned, I don't do counseling, but I talk with a lot of people who do, in psychology, psychiatry, and the ministry. And they tell me that everybody who comes to you with a problem are not necessarily looking for a solution. I couldn't understand that for a long time. Why do they bring you a problem if they don't want to solve it? Well, I can tell you why. They want to tell you about it, you about it, you about it, you about it, and you about it. And if you foul up the deal and solve the problem, they can't tell you again, you again. They want the attention that goes with the problem, and every company just about it has that kind of an individual. They want the attention that goes with griping and complaining. Well, I looked at the lady, and it wasn't unkindly, but firmly I said to her, yes, and you know, ma'am, I'm afraid your problem is about to get worse. She said, what do you mean? I said, I believe they're going to fire you. She was stunned. I couldn't have stunned her more if I'd hit her in the face with a bucket of ice water. She said, fire me? Why on earth would they fire me? The inflection in her voice clearly said, they're the bad guys, I'm the good guy. Why don't they fire them and keep me? Have you ever noticed that people who are the problem never recognize that they are? They're in complete denial. They think denial is just a river in Egypt. Why would they fire me? I said, ma'am, I don't believe there's a company in America big enough to contain this much poison in one small spot. Have you ever noticed that when somebody is about to lose something they've been complaining about, whether it's a car, a home, a mate, a job, or whatever, when all of a sudden it appears they're going to lose them, it takes on brand new value. She looked at me and said, well, what can I do? I said, do you really want to know? She said, yes, I do. That's the reason I came to see you. I came looking for help, but you sure haven't been any help so far. I said, well, ma'am, I've got an idea, and I will absolutely guarantee you it positively, definitely, absolutely will work if you will just do it. She said, I'll try anything within reason. I said, okay, when you get home tonight, all of your household tasks are complete. It's bedtime. Get off in a room right by yourself. Get a sheet of paper out, and at the top of it, write, I like my job because. She interrupted me. She said, that'll be easy. I don't like nothing about that job. Don't like nothing about those people down there. And I said, well, just as a matter of curiosity, do you work there for benevolent reasons, or do they pay you for working there? She said, well, I got to confess, they pay me. And I said, and you don't like to be paid? Oh, she said, yes, I do. I said, okay, tell you what you do. Open your notebook right now. We'll start our list of the things you like about your job. They pay you for working there, and you do like it, don't you? She said, absolutely. But she just stood there. I said, no, open your notebook now, and we'll get busy on the list. She just stood there. I said, ma'am, let me tell you what my experience in life has been. I've discovered that in 100% of the cases, no exceptions, people who won't take step number one never take step number two. You see, she had come to me with an impossible dream. Her dream was that nice Mr. Ziegler was going to solve all of her problems, and she would live happily ever after. But folks, I got news for you. I can't solve her problems. I can't solve your problems. But I will give you some steps that I'll absolutely, definitely, and positively will work for you, as it worked eventually for her. I said, well, ma'am, let me tell you something. Unless you're willing to take step number one right now, it's been nice talking with you. She angrily opened her notebook. Before we got through, there were 22 things she liked about her job. Not only did they pay her for working there, they paid her above average. She had 3 weeks vacation with pay. She had a retirement program. She was in on profit sharing. She had health insurance, life insurance, and accident insurance. She lived less than 10 minutes from home. She was in on management decisions. The company sent her to 3 seminars a year to be paid for. She had her own private office and parking place. 22 things that she liked about her job. Now I said, man, when you get home tonight, everything is finished. Get off in a room right by yourself, close the doors, change one word from I like my job to I love my job. Get in front of that mirror, and folks, I cannot say this strongly enough, but I'm going to try. The eyes are the windows of the soul. Look yourself in the eye, and with excitement and enthusiasm, say, I love my job because they pay me for working there. I love my job because they pay me above average for working there. I love my job because I have a wonderful insurance program. I love my job before every one of the statements. You will sleep better that night. You see, there's something hidden in what I'm saying to you now. When she says, I like my job, she's really saying, I'm grateful for my job. And of all of the emotions we can have, according to Hans Selye, the #1 stress specialist in America, the healthiest of all human emotions is gratitude. I said, you go down that list. I like my job. I love my job, rather. That is a way of gratitude. You'll sleep better the first night. Tomorrow morning, when you get up, get back in front of the mirror just before you go to work. Get back in front of the mirror and repeat the process again with excitement and enthusiasm. I love my job because, and take the list with you. Because the reality is, you see, you will have started to change from a fault finder to a good finder. Some people do really find fault like there's a reward for it. They really do. Take the list with you, and you will be able to add to that list, absolutely guaranteed. Do this every morning and every night, and you will have an astonishing recovery from this advanced case of stinking thinking. Now, I didn't say that to her, but I'm saying it to you. That's what it was. It was an advanced case of stinking thinking. Well, 6 weeks later, I was back in Birmingham, Alabama. I was doing a follow-up sales seminar. Now, the lady was not in sales, but she had been listening to my tapes. She had been listening to Automobile University, and she had discovered that everybody sells. Everybody who will ever hear this is in selling. Whether you're a school teacher, a civil service worker, a military personnel, an executive secretary, it doesn't make any difference. What you do, you sell every day of your life. There she was at the sales seminar, seated on the front row, grinning so wide she could have eaten a banana sideways. I'm telling you, you're talking about somebody that was excited. She was turned on. I said, well, how you doing? She grinned even more broadly and said, Mr. Ziegler, I'm doing wonderfully well, and thank you for asking. She said, you cannot believe how much those people down there have changed. I got a lid on the line, folks. You're not going to change anybody else till you change you. Everything really does begin with you. Now, you see, the unfortunate thing, this lady had been raised in a very negative environment. First, her parents had told her that she'd never amount to anything. They had said, you know, you're always late, you're always sloppy, why can't you be like your brother or your sister or whatever? When she got married, her husband had continued it, and so her self-talk had become completely negative. Everything that she said about herself was negative. Like Dad said, I'll never amount to anything. Or like my husband says, I can't do anything right. But when she started changing the input, then some radical change.
What's up, Fire Nation? Another bonus episode coming your way. This one was a great chat. I had a lot of fun with Terry Wilson. Terry is a serial entrepreneur who offers entrepreneurs and solopreneurs the tools, training, and technology needed to earn and enjoy more. For the past 13 years, he's helped thousands of hungry individuals discover their thing, develop the skills to do it, and be given a strategy to deliver it to market and produce value. Terry has a weekly podcast that can be heard on iTunes, Stitcher, and at terrywilson3.com. He also wrote a book called You Are Worth More, which you can check out at youareworthmorebook.com. We have a lot of fun in this episode, Fire Nation. I truly hope you enjoy. It's hard. It is hard work to achieve uncommon success. But you know what else is hard, Terry? Being broke.
You better believe that.
Living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to support your loved ones, not being able to support yourself, not being able to get up in the morning and do something that you want to do, but doing something you have to do. That's hard too. So Terry, my call to action for everybody here is choose your hard. Like back in 2012, it was hard. I spent 32 years of my life doing hard work and making the wrong decision on choosing my hard. I was going down the wrong path. I wasn't having any success. But then I flipped it and I said, you know what? Building this business, Entrepreneurs on Fire, it's going to be hard work. But the alternative is hard too. So I choose the hard of building a life of freedom, of building a life of choice, of building a life of uncommon success. And that's my call to action to everybody hearing our voices today. Choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Boy, I love that. You know, because there's a high cost of low living. And sometimes we think that, you know, we're just going to get out of this easy by taking the path of least resistance. And boy, sometimes the end of that path is just a tiger. I'm telling you, brother, I'm telling you.
Identify your big idea. Not be a weak, pale imitation of somebody else's big idea, which most people do. They're like, oh, look at what Terry's doing. He's so successful. Look what John's doing. I'll just copy them. And then you wonder why you fail, because you're a weak, pale imitation of those people and you will never win as a result. You need to come up with your big idea, your zone of fire, and wake up every day on fire, living that life. That is the life that you deserve. Because what at the end of the day do we really want? Freedom. The ability to wake up and do what we want, where we want to do it, with whom we want to do it with. If you have those three things, what more is there in life? And you can give yourself that gift. Just take it.
Which is identifying, why are you here? You know, I like to say it this way. You're not a cosmic accident. You didn't show up on planet Earth because lightning struck a mud puddle billions of years later and you crawled out. You're a significant person with a significant reason for being here. There's a reason for you to be here. And once you identify that big idea, as John just said it, life becomes, oh my gosh, becomes unimaginable. Give us another. Go ahead.
Just on that point real quick. I mean, I think it's so key for people to understand this, like what Terry is just sharing. There is so much wisdom out there in this world, but there's also so much noise and it's chaotic. And sometimes it's so hard to really cut through all of this and to really get to the meat and potatoes, to really get down to what matters.
Does anyone know Terry's story, what Terry did?
I do.
So Terry sold musical instruments, sold pianos, right? And what was it? Was it 9/11 that created the problem?
Yeah.
9/11 creates a problem. Nobody wants to go. There's no money in town anymore. It's a brick and mortar store. Some woman comes up to him in church, some older woman, and she's like, I was thinking about your problem, and the Lord told me you should sell them on the computer. Sell your pianos on the computer. And Terry's like, that's a great idea. I got to get out of here because you're crazy. So, of course, he does it in that sweet way where he says, oh, bless your heart. And
Bless your heart.
He thinks about it. And then he's like, you know, he told me about the story about, you know, the guy, it's a flood and, you know, you should get out. No, the Lord's going to save me. And at the end, he goes to God and says, why didn't you save me? He's like, I did. You know, I tried. I sent you the news report. I sent you a helicopter. You know. So Terry takes that and he's like, God's telling me what to do here, right? So I should do, that was the message. I should sell these things online. His first thought when the woman tells him that is, how am I gonna, because she said her grandson sold CDs.
On eBay.
Yeah, Terry's like, how am I, you could just put them, I can't put a stamp on a piano, this is crazy.
Drop it in the mailbox.
Yeah, so the next day, right? The next day he starts sells them out in a week. So he doesn't think about, he doesn't latch on to his idea of I can't ship these things cheaply, right? He just goes past that. He goes, well, what's my first solution? My first solution is I got to sell these things. That's all he's thinking about. He sells out his whole inventory in a week. Then the problem comes to him. How do I get rid of these things? I've now sold them. How do I deliver them? So what would you guys have done?
Hire a U-Haul and drive them out there.
Yeah, that's what Terry did. Terry got a truck and just was like, well, I'm gonna take my brother-in-law. We're gonna go around the country. We're going everywhere. And he delivered pianos for 2 weeks. That's amazing. And then, and then he's like, oh, and the next thing is I talked to someone.
Welcome to TerryWilson3.com, home of TW3. Are you ready to take your money, business, and life to the next level? You are worth more, and you're about to hear how and why. So buckle up and listen up as we journey to the next level. Please welcome your guys to reach your goals, the TW3 family.
Welcome to episode 513. Tonight we're talking about messages that move us. Have you guys been moved lately?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fairly recently.
Yeah. You look moved.
Yeah. You look a little different today. We're coming in a little professional,
Yeah. You guys, why are you looking so? Well, we don't have to get in that. Let's not get in that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, it's all.
But
I was moved.
You were moved.
I was moved.
I get to talk to Cliff today, and we're going to have an interview. And he said something that was pretty profound, I thought, in that he goes, and he didn't expound on this, but this is what I got from it. And so you guys be listening for this part of the interview where he talks about the utility for emotions, because we're talking about movement and being moved by a message. Not necessarily, a lot of times in these business shows, we concentrate a lot about how to create content to move others, create content to move your clients to a buying decision, create content to do whatever. But today we're going to focus on messages that move us internally, because it's hard to move someone else until you've been moved yourself. In other words, if I haven't been moved by health and I haven't subscribed to
That's right. That's right. That's good.
Are you the amen section
That's
now?
right.
That's right.
He
That's
agrees.
He just agrees. He's over, but it's true. I mean,
No, it is.
So I want to ask you guys, what message, if you had to think, has moved you to be better? A message that just repeats in your mind, that's been given to you, maybe from someone else, maybe you're the author of the message, but what message are you telling yourselves?
One I heard recently I thought was really good. It was the Andrew Scholl's podcast with Jordan Peterson. And they both kind of had a quote because they kind of came to a conclusion the way the podcast was going. They were working together.
Yeah.
But it was, don't devalue your words. Your words mean something. Everybody's kind of heard like words have meaning. I know I've heard it, but
Your whole life.
But I'm just saying, think kind of like you're saying now, things are typically communicated in different ways, and how that affects people and how that touches people is differently. So hearing it, don't devalue your words. And they were kind of getting into being honest and what it's like to be an honest person, even for the rough stuff. It's like, this is what I'm dealing with. It's
hard to tell the truth. When you say tell the truth, always tell the truth, I think people, that just bounces off their forehead thinking, oh, well, you're a dishonest person if you don't tell the truth. Well, are you really?
Well,
are you being truthful to yourself?
Yeah, that was where they were getting at, because we often tell our friends little white lies.
Yeah.
But
yourself.
Or ourselves. But think about it. If you're really their friend and the idea is you want the best for them, maybe the thing that they need to hear is not something that is comfortable to talk about, or not something that is easy to say,
Yeah.
Don't devalue your words.
Don't devalue your words. I love that. There's a passage over it that says, speak truth in love. And a lot of times we concentrate just on that word love, and we ascribe that to mean, well, we've got to make people feel good. And if you overemphasize the back end of that message, speak truth in love, then you undermine the front end, which is, it's first got to be true. The first priority here is got to be truth. And then you can't stop there, because telling someone the truth without wrapping it in some love and in some empathy, well, then you're just
Yeah. They got into how important it is because Jordan Peterson's thing was, he was talking about liberal arts degrees, and how a lot of times we look at a liberal arts degree and we go, there's no value in that. And if you're looking at just the market of jobs, maybe not. This doesn't mean you get this degree and you immediately get a job, maybe like other fields. But there's something to be said about being able to formulate your sentences, being able to formulate your thoughts, being able to communicate to people in a way where they understand what you're trying to say and they receive it in a way where your message was delivered. And so education has a place in that. But the thing that Andrew Scholl said, he's the comedian, it's his podcast, and this was really good too, was he used Patrice O'Neal as an example, but he was like, that guy always told the truth.
Yeah.
That guy lived his life, like at the end of his life, he's going to sit down with his 2 closest friends and they're going to watch it just back to back to back. And they're going to call him out on every single thing he did that day, what he said. And I thought about that and I was like, that's powerful.
Very powerful.
Because how often do I think about, like, am I being honest? Am I telling this person? Because I know there's been times in the past I'll be pissed off about something and you just internalize it. I mean, I know that's a common thing. And
that's not healthy.
It's not healthy for you and it's not healthy for the people that,
right.
you're servicing or you're, married to, whatever.
Right. I was talking to a group Sunday and I got to talking about a lot of times we hold our punches. We pull our punches. We don't say what we really need to say. We don't speak the truth. And the reason is because we don't want that person to not like us. We don't want that person to think ill of us. We want to be accepted. It's human nature. It's one of the basic psychological needs everyone has is acceptance, right?
Yep.
And so because of that, we feel that pressure and we don't say what we need to say. Maybe you're a business manager out there. Maybe you're in leadership. Maybe you're in marketing and you're scared to say what needs to be said. But the problem is when you're doing that, you start walking in untruth. It's not that you're trying to be deceptive. I'm not trying to wrap a moral, connotation to that to where you're a bad person, but you're just trying to protect the feelings. And more importantly, if you really drill down to it, is it their feelings you're trying to protect?
Or yours?
Or your own acceptance?
Are you running away from your own comfortability?
Exactly. And I use this analogy. I don't know if you guys, because your age group, I doubt has ever heard of this show called MASH.
Oh, I know MASH. But
it came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And there's this one scene where Frank Burns is coming out of the operating room and he looks at Hawkeye and he goes, why does everyone around here take an instant disliking to me?
Saves time, Frank.
Saves time. And that is one of the greatest.
It's a great line.
But I use that as an illustration as when you live your life and live it in true harmony of who you are, in true congruence with this is who I am and this is why I am. When you can live your life that way and someone doesn't like you for that, they have rejoice. They have just saved you and themselves time. Yeah. Because now we don't have to waste each other's time.
Yeah.
I'm not your vibe. You're not mine, apparently. So it's all good.
Yep. Yeah.
So it was good stuff. What message has moved you?
Recently, it was from my boss. 3 words.
Yeah.
Step it up. That's moved me since.
And I have been moved.
I've been moved.
Well, Cliff said something, and I'll circle back to what we opened this conversation up with. Cliff said something very profound. He says, the utility for emotion is the word motion. And so every message that you internalize or give out has to have some emotion to it because that's what compels people. That's the fuel that you have to put on the fire to get people in motion.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes someone to get up in your grill and say, you ain't all that, step it up.
That's right.
Sometimes it takes people to say, River, before the foundations of the world, God knew you, wanted you, and accepted you, and you're worth more. And so now I'm pulling on another string. I'm not using the hammer. I'm using the carrot. Because what's the 2 things that motivate us? Pain and pleasure. But at either instance, any message that's going to move me is going to move you guys, or we're going to be able to give out, has to either evoke an emotion of, I don't want to feel this.
Yeah.
Or I want to feel this. Yeah. But that's the 2 factors that motivate us. And if we're going to have a message that we internalize and we motivate ourselves, it's got to have some sort of emotion to it. Otherwise, because intellectualism and just straight up raw dog facts and figures is what it is, and you need that. You definitely do, especially certain personality types. But if it doesn't have a little bit of that spin on it, that tugs at the heart, if it doesn't have something in that, then it's easily to discount and write off, forget. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the utility of emotion. You study it out. Why are we given emotion? Is so that we can remember. And I always tell guys when I'm counseling them, I says, the reason why your wife will always win every stinking fight you guys have is because if you've been married long enough, if you get into an argument with Alicia, I guarantee Alicia can tell you where you guys were at, what you were doing, what you were wearing, even the music being played, all of the details about whatever the thing in question is, whatever the argument over that you're using this thing in the past as she's going to be able to articulate in finite details where you're just going, well, I just know it was sometime in, the fall and da-da. Why is that? Because she has an emotion attached to that event where you do not. Emotions is what creates and sears into our minds that memory. That's why I can tell each and every one of you what I was wearing, where I was at, how I was feeling, the music, what conversations I was having. Every one of you guys that were born, and I was there in the birthing room, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Why? Because it was a profound emotional event. But 2 days later, I couldn't tell you anything. I couldn't tell you what we were doing. I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
And so that's the point. We got to have, if you want to have a message that moves you, that you're constantly considering, or it's going to move others, you have to evoke some level of emotion. Maya Angelou. People often forget what you tell them, but they'll never forget
How you made them feel.
how you made them feel.
Yeah.
There's people that you guys have worked with, people I've worked with, people you've worked for. You either have a positive memory or a negative memory. Why? Because the emotion wrapped around it. So
That's powerful.
we got some great stuff. We got a great conversation. Me and Cliff go for about 45 minutes here. For you guys listening to the podcast, you're not going to hear anything weird or disruption. But for you guys watching the podcast over at terrywilson3.com/YouTube, episode 513, you're going to notice one of the last questions in the episode, there was a wardrobe change. All of a sudden, I'm wearing something different. Cliff is wearing something different. The camera angles change. Everything changed about the last question. Well,
I'm here to say you're crazy.
Yeah, ignore that. That's all we're saying, because this is an audio podcast now. While we were going through it, he had a family emergency he had to take care of real quick, and we had to cut the interview short because his dog got into the woods, and they couldn't get him back, and it was a thing they had to go take care of immediately, and so we had to cut it short. He was kind enough to listen to the last question and then send in a video as the answer. So hopefully it's going to be put.
Nice of him.
Yeah, it was very nice. I said that was very kind. You didn't need to have to do that. But he did anyway. Be listening. There's a special offer we're going to offer in the middle of the show. If you would like some personal mindset coaching from Cliff, or offering something special if you are a TW3 member or listener here. So that will be coming up in the middle of the show. So be listening to that. Also, elite members, this coming Wednesday night, you do not want to miss the mastermind that we've got going on. I've got some incredible opportunities to share with you, and strategies I'm going to share with you that I really think is going to help your sales just go through the roof. So stay tuned for that. And if you've not connected with me over at terrywilson3.com/LinkedIn, I do weekly trainings over there where I take Q&As, and I do specific, here's how to use a tool for this industry, and here's what you can do with some of the TW3 tools that we have. So when we get back, we're going to get into that interview I have with Cliff Ravenscraft, the Mindset Answer Man. Earners are learners, and leaders are readers. If you want to go to the next level, you do have to grow to the next level, and that's why I offer free audiobooks at terrywilson3.com/freebook. That's terrywilson3.com/freebook. When you go over there, you're going to get to try the service out for 30 days free. No obligation, and you get a free audiobook just for checking it out at terrywilson3.com/freebook.
You're listening to TerryWilson3.com. TerryWilson3.com. Inspiring, informative, and entertaining content for the entrepreneur and small business owner.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the TW3 podcast. We're going to go ahead and get into that interview with Terry and Cliff.
Thank you, Reagan. And you are right. We've got the man, the legend, the way of life, my friend and coach, mindset coach, Cliff Ravenscraft. Cliff.
I thought we were going to be talking to Jesus. The way. He is the way. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life.
Well, hey, listen, you're carrying him, man. You're carrying him, so you get part of those credentials.
I'm one with the guy, so I guess that kind of just throws me in there.
I guess you get the branding as well.
I like it. I'm updating my bio and all social media channels now. Right. I am the way.
I am the way, according
to Terry Wilson.
According to Terry Wilson. Well, Cliff, let me ask you, what's on your mind lately?
Oh, gosh. So many things. Like just how incredibly awesome life is. The fact that every single morning I wake up and the earth is precisely the right amount of distance as far as it's not too close to the sun that I didn't fry while I was sleeping, and it didn't drift too far away from the sun so that I froze to death while I was sleeping. Every single day, this earth rotates around that ball of plasma in such a precise way that it supports my life. That's just one thing out of the infinite number of things that I'm just in awe of.
There's always something to be grateful for, isn't there?
Always.
Yeah. I love that. Well, tonight we've been talking about messages that move us, and you have been someone I've been following for many years, as you know. The reason I pivoted my radio show into podcasting is listening to the OG of podcasting, the podcast answer man, and now the mindset answer man, and all kinds of other branding. But I wanted to get you on
and formerly known as the mindset answer man, now known as the way. Just kidding.
You are welcome. I just want 10% of whatever you get off. Oh, my word. But you've been putting out messages for a long, long time. And, you know, on this business show here, we're always talking about sales and marketing and how to craft, you know, messages to move people, blah, 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 you know, which is great. And it's a utility. You got to have it. But I think, especially in the backdrop of, you know, all the opportunity you have to go crazy, but you don't have to. But there's a lot of opportunity out there if you turn on the news, if you listen to social media, if you digest any of the stuff that's in the zeitgeist out there. There's all kinds of opportunity to get sideways emotionally, spiritually, and all of these other things. And so we're dealing with entrepreneurs out here. And yes, you've got to have a great message, but really the message you're telling yourself and the thoughts you're considering, it has to start there, doesn't it? Otherwise, you can't craft a good message if you don't have a good message inside, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah. I do think that. I think that if you have to be clear about who you are, why you're here, how you add value to others. If you don't have clarity about that, how can you have a clear message to communicate with the world? So everything starts with what's going on inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you're thinking about how do we create a message that moves others, and before you hit the record button, you said that, you know, this is about the messages that move us.
Yeah.
And I think there's a quote. Is it Shakespeare who said, know thyself and to thine own self be true?
Yes.
And there's so much about the importance of that statement that I don't think a lot of people take enough time to know themselves. So as a coach, one of the things that I ask people is to journal the answer to two of the most important questions on the face of this. I mean, you'll never answer any two questions more important than these. Number one, who am I? And number two, why am I here? Matter of fact, if anybody is interested in crafting a message that will move others and therefore finding the message that moves you, I would encourage you to do something that I encourage a lot of people to do that I work with, and that is to use those 2 questions as journal prompts. Maybe do this once, like within the next 2 to 3 days, maybe by the end of the day. And then I would give yourself at least a week to experience life and everything that comes along your path. And then maybe 1 week later, use those 2 questions as journal prompts again. The only thing is whatever you answered the first time, don't go back and look at it. Simply write only what comes to your heart this week. And then give yourself another week. Answer those 2 questions again. Look at a piece of paper or just type the 2 questions into your digital journal, whatever you're typing into. And it's just the question, who am I? Answer that. Why am I here? Answer that. Again, give no credence, no thought, no concern whatsoever how you answered those questions the last time. Only after you've done this 3 times, take a look and compare the 3 different answers and see if you got a little bit more clarity the 3rd time. And then just imagine if you were to ask yourself this every week, 52 weeks out of the year, or maybe once a quarter, every quarter each year. And the important thing I think to get out of this is that you can discover more about who you uniquely are and why you're here at this time and place. And I definitely believe that you'll truly discover who you are and your purpose.
Because you are such a prolific content creator. I mean, how many podcasts have you created?
40 podcasts. I'm almost at 4,600 podcast episodes.
Holy cow. I mean, you're just putting out some great content. And so what's a utility that you can give our guys that are listening, that this exercise you just gave us about journaling and asking those 2 questions about who am I and why am I here, and doing that exercise yourself, because I know you've spoken about it in the past, to develop this clarity, how has that served you in your content creation and creating messages that have moved others?
Well, gosh. So first of all, it's given me a very clear picture of who I am. And through that process, I realized that like the first few times I answered that, if I were to go back and find my first few answers, Terry, what I put on the page, although it was digital, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I had written in response to who am I and why am I here had nothing to do with who I am and why I'm here. But it's only in looking back. I didn't know it then. I was being authentic. I was being honest. I wasn't lying. My belief at the time, this is who I am and this is why I'm here. But man, if I go back and look at it, I realize what I had written down is this is who people believe that I am. And this is why other people believe that I'm here and what I should be doing in this world. And I had realized through this process that my identity that I chose, the one that I had attached, the identity that I had given myself, was not something that God gave me. It wasn't something that I consciously chose. It's something that is the amalgamation of everyone else in society. And then even closer to that, my teachers and respected leaders in my life and my peers and my parents and all of this other stuff. Over time, I let all of their expectations speak into who I am, or my belief about who I am, and my belief about why I'm here, what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. And that's why I go back to this quote, know thyself and to thine own self be true. And so as I began to realize that, wait a second, I mean, this is a description of how most people know me. This is absolutely an accurate description of what I do for a living. You know, this is an accurate description of how I spend my days. But in my heart, this is not what I want.
Right.
This isn't my heart's desire. And so I began to do another journaling practice. And I promise I'll come back and say how this has shifted, you know, and shown up for me in my messaging. But there's another journaling type of practice that I do. Have you heard me talk about the 50 things I want list?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, Terry, are you ready for your life to radically be blown away? All right, there you go. Get the pen.
Got it.
It's an exercise. And what you would do is you would take a piece of paper or a document, and at the top in real big, bold letters, you're going to write down the words, 50 things I want. On the left-hand side of that page, you're going to number it, starting with 1 at the top. 2 is going to be right underneath it. You're going to go down the column there, and it's going to be 1 through 25. Flip the page over or get a second page, and you're going to do 26 through 50 on this opposite side. Now you have 50 spots where you can write down what you want. Now you're going to ask yourself, what do I want? Seriously, if I could have anything that I want, what would I ask for? What would I want? What is there in my life that I currently have that I love, that I want more of, and I want to continue to have? What is not available to me currently, or what's at least not in my existence or my experience of life right now? What would I like to have? What do I want? Here's the caveat. For this to be effective, you cannot have any filter. You can't ask, is this selfish? You can't ask, is this possible? You can't concern yourself with what would people think if they saw this list and saw that I had written this down. Don't be worried. You're not going to write anything on your list that's in opposition to your values in life. But if you can remove the materialistic, selfish, money-oriented possessions, blah, 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 material things, carnal nature stuff. You know what? If you would just allow yourself, if it comes up, write it on the piece of paper. I promise you it's important. So what you do is you just write this down. I don't care if it's possible. It's like, you know what? One of mine is to have I want to build a castle on the South Island of New Zealand. I have no idea why. But I literally want to build a castle on the South Island of New Zealand.
Love it.
And I want to spend my summers, or well, what would be winters here. I want to spend the summer there. So yeah, anyway, just the craziest stuff, but also the not crazy stuff. You'll have a mixture, but after you get finished with your top 50 things you want with no filters, the next thing to do is to create a list titled the top 10 things I want. Now you're going to write down 1 through 10 on the left-hand side, and you're going to go through the 50. And as you're going through the 50 that you've written down, you ask, should this be on my top 10? If it should be, then write it, copy it over. You're going to write it into your top 10. Now you don't need to worry about what order these top 10 is. So don't even slow down with all of that nonsense. Prioritization here in the top 10 or the top 50 is not a matter of any concern. So let's just say you're going through this process, you're building your top 10, you're looking through the list, and all of a sudden it's like, poof, instant insight. I've got something that should be on my top 10 and it's not on my list of 50. That's right. Just scribble in 51, write it there, and also put it on your top 10. All right. So now you have your top 10 things out of this list that you want. Now I want you to write below that, put a big line, and put my top 3 desires. Now you're going to put number 1, 2, and 3. Now this is the only one where you're going to put it in order. When you put it in order, you're going to say my number 1 desire. Out of the top 10 things above, what's most important to me? Write that in as number 1. Now, out of the remaining 9 items above, what's most important to me? You're going to put the second one. That's going to be in number 2 position. Out of the remaining 8 items, what's most important to me? That's going to be your third. Now, you have a very, very clear picture of just overall, in general, the kinds of things that move you, the kinds of things that create emotion, stirs emotion. And by the way, we're talking about moving you. You need some motion.
Yeah.
We need energy in your body. And energy in your body in motion is actually called emotion. Energy in motion. This is what it's. If you are not having enough motion or movement or being moved in your life, it means that you're not really tapping in to your emotional identity, the true you beyond your ego. That is your personality that you've developed to fit into everybody's expectation and mold of the agreed society that we live in. So what happens is this list of 50 things is going to give you clues about who you are. And then this top 10 is going to give you even greater clues about who you are. And the top 3 is going to say a lot about you. And if you just go through this list and this exercise and say, what could I learn about someone who would write these things down as their 50 things, as their 10 things, as their top 3 things? And it's through that exercise, Terry, that all of a sudden it's like, wow, so there's a lot of things on this list that I would actually have to change my identity a little bit, as far as at least what other people perceive me as. I would have to change how I show up and the work that I do, which means that I'd have to choose my belief about why I'm on this planet. You know? And so it's through that exercise of what I want and actually saying, yeah, this is truly these are things that are more in alignment with my heart's desire. And I want to actually begin to pursue, at least starting out with my top number 1 thing, and ideally making some movement and progression towards my number 2 and number 3 as well. I'd like to start focusing on moving towards where my heart is calling me to and get some movement within myself. Now, if I come about and go and do this journaling prompt once again, let's just say it's been 6 months since I did that exercise, all of those exercises, and it's 6 months later and I've been pursuing my 3 things I want. And subconsciously, I find myself also making some movement towards some of the other things that were in the top 50, but not on the top 10 or top 3. It's just like, wow, I didn't know this stuff was in here. And as I begin moving towards those things, I realize I have to grow personally. I have to learn. I have to grow. Or maybe it's a little metaphysical, but I've actually discovered that I have to unlearn a lot of things.
Yeah.
I have to drop a lot of things that I thought I knew. I have to let go of some long-held beliefs and certainties and conclusions that I had come to. It's like, turns out this isn't quite concluded just after all. So as a result of pursuing the things that I want and the things that I desire, I get more in alignment where all of a sudden on a daily basis, my emotional state or my energy in movement or my energy in motion within my body, within my being, is a higher vibration. And I mean, like, I go from fear and survival and competition and anxiety. I start to move up to courage, and I start to move into confidence and boldness, and I start to move into acceptance and non-attachment. And I start to move into love and passion and joy and peace. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. The more I learn about myself and the more I make movement towards what I learn about myself, I get more clarity about the question of who am I and why am I here? And so to answer the original question, how does this help me craft a message that moves others? It's actually finding out what genuinely, authentically is my own movement in this world. It's by doing that all of a sudden I begin to only do or say anything in this world that is in alignment with what I've come to now know about myself. And when I do that, other people resonate with it. Not everyone.
Sure.
But the people who are meant to resonate with me, they resonate. It calls forth something within them that says, wow, I'm noticing something in Cliff that is speaking to me. I don't know what that actually means, but I find that when I'm in Cliff's presence, or when I hear his voice, when I hear him speak or share, or I read an email newsletter, something inside of me is moving. I feel an emotional movement, an energy in motion.
There's
If I just do that, it attracts everybody. It is the power of attracting your tribe.
Yeah. There is a dynamic in music, and it shows up like on acoustic instruments like guitars and pianos. It's called sympathetic resonance. Have you heard of this?
I've not specifically in music, but I do know about resonance for sure.
Well, it
makes sense.
It's a great analogy and metaphor for what you're talking about, because it brings into these concepts and constructs that you're offering in a real practical, real tangible world, so you can actually see it in the physical world, what you're talking about in the psychological and spiritual world. If you was to sit down at a piano and just open up the dampers, which means let the dampers off of all the strings, and let's say hit a C, what happens is, if the piano's in tune, all the notes, all the C's, not all the notes, but just the C's on that piano will resonate, and you get this over harmonics is what it's called. The harmonics of this sympathetic resonance, because it's in harmony with that note. And then there's some relative notes that would go along with it, but all the C's, well, if you hit a B flat, all the B flats on that piano would have you would hear these harmonics. And I really believe when you speak, when I speak, whoever you are at your genuine core, if you're in alignment with that, I feel, then there's sympathetic resonance going on. It's just like people don't even they can't intellectually maybe articulate it, but it just resonates on the inside of them. There's something about what he's saying I feel.
Yeah, and they are moved to action.
And moved to action.
Even though you didn't press the piano key for that specific C on the thing.
Yeah.
They are a C, just like you are an authentic C. And by your C intentional movement, they are sympathetically, without any understanding of why they're doing it, they're called to movement as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not heard about that, but I love that. I'm like literally visualizing the whole thing as you were describing it. But now that you describe what sympathetic resonance is, this is the way that I've seen the same thing as what you're describing. Tuning forks, the big tuning forks. And there's a tuning fork over here that vibrates at this frequency and one over here at this frequency, but they're different. And the guy dings the thing and it vibrates and it makes that beautiful sound, and the other one does nothing. But then they bring another tuning fork that's tuned, that is actually the same frequency or the same whatever they call that, and they set it, and it's on the other side of the room, and they go ding, and it vibrates, and then all of a sudden the other one starts to vibrate and make a sound as well.
Yeah. I tell you, getting in alignment with who you are, I that was brilliant, Cliff. Is that the path you took? You feel like in your own journey to sort of get into what you described that book from time to time, that Zone of Genius book that you brought out before, operating in that. Was that sort of the strategy you used to get in that zone? Because you're a podcaster, and your voice, you're a speaker. Yeah, you've always, even when you were teaching on podcasting, there was a mindset element to it. So you've always been in this space. It was just sort of.
I just did a podcast episode that's titled, How Long Have You Been Coaching? It's episode 21 of a podcast called Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching. You can find that at notesoncoaching.com. And this is a question that all coaches seem to get asked at one point, or how long you been coaching?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, gosh, okay. In the capacity that I've been doing now is the mindset answer. And I guess I've been coaching for since 2017. So what is that? 4 years, just over 4 years now. But then, there was about 12 to 14 years as the podcast Answer Man. And so I was technically coaching there, although it's a lot of consulting work and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
So I guess you could say I've been coaching since I was, since 2006 when I started Podcast Answer Man. But then I got to think, it's like, wait a second. Before that, I spent 12 years as an insurance agent, and I coached people on all sorts of things. Like, for example, I was one of the first people that they called when there was after a fire, after a tornado, after a tragic car accident. And I had to coach a lot of people through a lot of experiences in life. I've delivered benefit checks of life insurance policies. I mean, I've had a lot of coaching. Concurrently with that, or if I said it correctly, concurrently with that, I also was a pastor, associate pastor for 10 years of my life. And mostly I worked with young adults, some teenagers. I wasn't a youth pastor, but young adults. But there were a couple of teens, and there are at least 3 different scenarios where I was called to go and help and speak to somebody who was literally saying they were going to kill themselves, to commit suicide. And I'm sitting there working with young adults whose husband just cheated on them. I'm working with kids, parents who just lost a young child, as a result of a car accident or a miscarriage or this or that. Dude, I had lots of coaching. So gosh, I guess I've been coaching ever since, we could go back to 1996. And then I'm thinking, wait a second, no, they're in high school. I was a part of this, small group Bible study, and I was on fire for God. And you know what? I was always inviting people to Bible study groups and stuff like that. And people would say, hey, Cliff, can I sit down and eat here with you at lunch? I'd like to ask for some wisdom and some advice on this. How do you think I should handle the situation? People calling me on the phone at night and stuff like that. So I guess I've been coaching since I was a kid, since I was in high school. But wait a second. So I guess since the late 80s, early 90s. No, but wait a second. There was when I was a kid. I never forget my next door neighbor. He had the zip line, and he asked me if I wanted to go over and play at his house. I guess I was probably in first or second grade. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, it's first grade, and I'll never forget some of the conversations we had. And he always wanted to know my advice. And so, how long? I guess God put me on this earth to coach, because I've been coaching ever since I've been here.
But you discovered it when? When did you?
I discovered in September 2017.
Yeah. So it's always been there. It's just the being cognizant of it didn't happen. Being aware of it, awakened to it. Yeah.
You remember what you said in the resonance? You said so that the C, but you said there are some other minor. What did you call the notes that
there's
are next
relative
to it? The
notes.
octaves?
There's relative notes to that would resonate.
And they start to vibrate a little bit. They resonate a little bit.
Yes.
Right. They're not fully vibrating like the C's.
Right.
So the thing is I'm a C, right?
Yeah.
I'm a pure C.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. There you go.
Because I'm a coach.
That's right.
I'm a pure C coach. But you know what? For 12 years, I was the podcast answer man. And that was like a
G.
C sharp?
G.
A G. Okay.
It's a relative note to it, but it's not. It's going to resonate.
Relative.
Yeah.
And you know what? I tapped into that emotion, that good feeling stuff, a very small percentage of the time, maybe 5 to sometimes 10, 15% of my work effort provoked emotion within me, a positive vibration inside of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. Well, you guys, you can't move others until you've been moved yourself, and you've been listening to Cliff Ravenscraft about how he has gotten clarity over the years to actually operate in his zone of genius. And I bet you could put him under sodium pentothal right now, and he would swear up and down he doesn't work for a living. He just lives for a living and enjoys life. We are offering listeners to the show a 90-minute one-on-one with Cliff. They can reach out to Cliff. There's limited availability to that. So if you want to take advantage of that, Cliff, where do they need to go and what do they need to say?
Well, I'll tell you what, here's how it works. go to mindsetanswerman.com and click the Work With Me tab in the navigation menu. And then you'll see that there's two different things. There's the Next Level Mastermind. You can read all about that. And there's one-on-one coaching. You could either apply for the Next Level Mastermind, or you can apply for one-on-one coaching. But here's what I will tell you. Either way, you're going to have to go through me in a 90-minute one-on-one session. All right? So the one thing I will tell you is that this is for people who are full-time self-employed, people who own a business, and or somebody who, if you still have a day job, you're still eligible if you have plans to become full-time self-employed within the next 12 to 18 months, like leaving the day job behind. This is the only people that I serve through the kind of work that I'm doing right now, as far as the coaching that I do. So here's what I will say. If that is an indicator of who you are, if that's who you are, sign up for the Next Level Mastermind or my one-on-one coaching through the application, but then send me a separate email, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com, and put in the subject line, I heard about you from Terry. I'd like the 90-minute one-on-one complimentary session. What I will tell you is if you do that and I still have space available, I will gift you a 90-minute one-on-one full-blown experience of my coaching. You'll just have to commit to coming to our call from a 100% distraction-free environment. But I would want you to know that there is absolutely no expectation, no obligation that you'll ever become a paid client, even though you filled out the application. The only reason I ask you to go and fill the application out at first is because I can then get the PDF document and read a little bit about you, so I can just know what's going on for you and what you're looking to do in this world as a result of the information that you supply in the coaching application. But so fill out an application, either one, over at mindsetanswerman.com or click the Work With Me tab, and then send me an email, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Put in the subject line, I want my free call, and we'll chat.
Sounds great. Yeah, just say I heard it from Terry, and he will hook you up if he can. And I will tell you guys, from a personal experience, I've been a coaching client. Was a coaching client of Cliff's and in his Next Level Mastermind group there for a good year, a little over a year, and it was worth more than every penny spent. I tried everything. I have been overweight my entire life, adult life, and just one 90-minute call with Cliff has me listening to Woody Woodpecker occasionally, and all kinds of other things that I
almost did it, Woody Woodpecker.
I know. But it literally just that call got me in a mindset that I enjoy going to the gym every day. I enjoy the lifestyle I adopted. It is not a have to, it's a want to. So it is worth every penny. Cliff, if you got just a couple more minutes, we were on a mastermind last night, and I asked my guys, I said, the first four that respond, I will allow you to ask a question, and I'll play it for Cliff for him to answer. So if you got just a few moments, we'll run through them real quick. Here we go. Here's the first.
Let's do it.
Hi, my name's Ron Haslam, and I'm at ronhaslam.com. And my question for Cliff Ravenscraft for mindset issues is how to stay focused and consistent on a new habit you're trying to form.
Okay, so he's trying to create a new habit, and he's having a hard time staying focused and persistent with it.
So the answer is going to be different for each person. So Ron, there's not a lot I know about your core values, and so if I was to have a conversation with you, I could uniquely craft what a strategy for you personally. But here's some strategies that work overall. First of all, get some clarity about what the habit is. All right. So matter of fact, what habit do I want to remain focused on? So journal the answer to that question. Why is this habit important for me? Journal the answer to that question. The next question I would say is, what has it cost me to not be consistent with this habit up until now? And then the next question will be, what would it make possible for me if I were consistent with this habit moving forward? Get as much information as you can to the answer of those questions. That alone could be all you need to just, without any other strategies or techniques. The next thing that I would do is I would encourage you to get an app for your phone. It's available for Android or iOS. It's called Habit Share. You can find it at habitshareapp.com. I believe it's free. If not, it's super cheap. It's a one-time fee because I don't pay anything monthly for it. And you can go in and you can type in your habit, what it is, tell it that you want to do it daily, and then log in each and every day and put a green mark on there that says, I've done this. Now, if you ever miss a day, go in and put a red X that I didn't do this. The cool thing is this app, every time you log in, it'll show you the most recent 7 days. Of course, you can tap on the habit and it'll show you an archive of the last several months or years, however long you've been tracking. But the cool thing is that as you do this, it'll tell you how many days in a row or what your streak is. Now, I hear some people say, oh gosh, I've tried the streaking stuff, and sometimes that's for me a bigger demotivator than it is a motivator, because I got up to 138 days straight that I did it, and now I missed one day, and it now tells me that I have 3 days in a row I've done this. Whip-de-doo. Well, the great thing about the Habit Share app is that it also shows you the percentage. So what I would encourage you to do is track this. And yes, if you skip a day, you missed a day, put the big fat X on there and recognize that success isn't perfection.
Yes.
Success is staying consistent. Consistent doesn't mean I never fail. Consistent means that a majority of the time, in fact, I consider success to be 90% of the time I do what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to have 100, but if I'm running 97%, that's awesome. And guess what? That allows me for each, if for every 100 days, there are 10 days I could screw it all up, and it's not a big deal.
Nice.
So those are just some tips right off the top of my head.
There you go,
Thanks,
Ron. That's a great question, and a lot of benefit for him and other people that are listening. So let's go to the next one. So here we go.
Hello, my name is Chris Miller for themillerfirms.com. And I have a question for Cliff about mindset. Back in the day, I used to sell Kirby's door to door. And one of the biggest problems I had was getting out and walking up to a house because it scared the hell out of me, right? And I was number one in the state of Florida for a little while. And people would ask me, what's your secret? And I would tell them, get out and knock the door. And they always thought I was being a jerk, but it was really a serious thing. So my question is for you, when you're dealing with someone or you yourself are dealing with the problem where you are afraid to do something, but you're not going to get anywhere unless you do it. What do you do about that?
Thank you so much, Chris, for the question. And I will tell you, as you were asking the question, I immediately wrote down life or death. For me, I look for the life or death of the situation. For me, I think about if I truly am selling something that I believe in, then I believe that this person's life is going to be better if I knock on that door and I introduce them to the problem or to the solution to the problem they know that they have. Now, by the way, this doesn't work if I'm trying to sell something I don't believe in. And so if that's the case, I ain't got no advice for you other than go find a different line of work. Or sell something else.
Product, yeah.
Or find a different product. But if you believe in what you're doing, even if it's a Kirby vacuum cleaner, my Kirby vacuum cleaner is going to clean up dust mites that your vacuum cleaner is going to leave behind. And do you have children? Oh my gosh, do you know that the tonsillitis and the allergies and the shots do you know the side effects of the shots your kids have from the medication your kids taking? It's stunning their growth. This could lead to early death if you don't get my vacuum cleaner. So I'm being only a little slightly over the top on this, but I genuinely look for really what's at risk. What's at risk if I don't go up and do this? Sometimes it's for them. it's not a great idea for you to put too much emphasis on what's at risk if I don't make this sale, because again, you want to be in such a position that you're selling with integrity and that this genuinely is in their best interest. But I look for the life and death. I look for how is what I'm doing a service to the person I'm about ready to speak to, and how on earth could I go to bed at night knowing that I didn't knock on their door and provide that service.
Nice. Love it. All right, here's our third question.
Hey, this is Gary Green with GaryGreen1.com. I have a question for Cliff Ravenscraft today. One question would be, what is the one thing that really, gets him in an ultra positive mood that before the business day starts? What's the one tool that he could share that would just help people just get their day set off in the right direction? So if you could help me with that, that would be good. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Answer to that question is super simple. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things will work out for you. And there's one other scripture that immediately jumps to my mind. Well, where on earth do I find this kingdom? Because that sounds awesome. And Jesus was once asked, when are we going to see the kingdom? And he says, I'll tell you the truth. You ain't going to be here. Nobody's going to be pointing up in the air and say, here it comes. And nobody's going to be able to tell you what date on the calendar it's going to arrive.
What?
He says that's because the kingdom of God is within you. Go within. Jesus said to me, all of you who are burdened and overwhelmed and heavy weight laden, all this other stuff, come to me and I will give you rest. He said, my yoke is easy. Connect with me within. Feel and sense my presence. Be in my awareness. Come and be still and know that I am God. Come, I will lead you beside still waters. Sit with me and you'll understand that my burden is light and I will give you rest for your soul. That's my answer to that question.
You put your preach on for that.
Because hold on. I put my ultra positive mood on for that one. Woo!
Awesome. Okay, one more question, and I know you got to go, so let's get this one in.
Hey, Cliff, this is Lori Brown. My website's LoriBrown7.com. And my question is, what's your favorite book?
Hi, Lori. It is Cliff Ravenscraft here, and I thank you for your question. First of all, I can't even remember what books I could have possibly been recommending during that live session during the Mastermind group so long ago. But I want to let you know that I am neck deep into a lot of spiritual stuff, sort of metaphysical stuff, and, just give you a little heads up. But to answer your question, some books that I'm reading today, just a handful of them. I'm rereading this book. It's called Super Coach by Michael Neal. Special spelling there, Neill. Anyway, I've read this book already 3 times. It is, for me, it's a must read. Then I heard a client tell me about the surrender experiment, and he was like, man, I don't understand why this guy lives his life the way he does. So I told him, I said, I've never heard of this book, but I have heard about this book. This is called The Untethered Soul. And it's by Michael Singer. It is a very faith-based kind of book. And it talks about the voice in your head, that this inner roommate that keeps talking to you. Most of the time it tells you all sorts of things that are going to be terrible. And most of the stuff that he says just doesn't ever come to pass. Yet we keep taking advice from this voice in our head. Anyway, great book, Michael Singer. Read this book first if you're going to read this. And then right after that, it's a lot of fun to read The Surrender Experiment, both of these books by Michael Singer. So those are great. And then I came across this on TikTok, I think, or I have no idea how I found this. Actually, I think I still have no idea. Anyway, this is called Your Word is Your Wand. I picked this up for 98 cents or something like that in the Kindle store. but it is an old text of some affirmations of somebody who is an incredible believer in your word creating things in motion. If you've heard of the law of attraction, it's in that realm. If these kind of things are not your thing, these books probably aren't going to be recommendations that you're interested in. But your question was, what books am I currently reading that I'm most excited about? This is the kind of stuff that I'm reading today.
Guys, thank you for this opportunity. And if I could be of service to you or support and encouragement to you on your business journey, I would love to chat further.
You're listening to TerryWilson3.com. TerryWilson3.com. Inspiring, informative, and entertaining content for the entrepreneur and small business owner.
All right. It's River. Welcome back to the studios. That was a great interview with Cliff Ravenscraft.
What was your favorite part?
You know, just his charisma. You know, he really can pull you in with his words, you know, really get in touch with that emotion, really puts those emotional hooks in your little receptors, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah. I like Cliff. Cliff is the man, and
good guy.
Very benevolent. Like I said, that him to circle back and help us out on the last question there. So it was a good interview.
You know what I think is part of Cliff's appeal?
What's that?
And this is, I've seen this in business. I feel like I'm starting to notice this more. But guys that like Cliff, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, on top of being incredibly smart, on top of being, you know, he's obviously studied what he's
knows
doing.
his stuff.
He's smart, but on top of all of that, all of the positives there, he's also like just a good person. Like,
yeah, that helps.
And it really does.
It does.
It really helps.
It helps. You know, there's an old saying that says, your talent will take you further than your character will keep you. And my admonition to everyone is, let your character keep pace with your talent. Because how many times have we seen people that they've rode in on the coattails of something?
Yeah.
They were related to a situation.
Yeah.
They were set up because of a certain situation.
And you can just kind of see the character flaws.
But when the
sometimes.
character is tested, in times of pandemics, when times that people have other options, businesses right now, you know, I was reading, and this is something, you know, I'm not saying I want anybody to feel pain or hurt, but I was reading this one thing that one of the benefits of economic challenges is it weeds out bad leadership and bad management.
Very true.
You know, because the people that are invested in their people, you know, and we've talked about this. It's and Cliff just embodies this. There's some people you have to work for, and there's some people you want to work for.
And there's a difference.
And the people that are employing others that you want to be there because you believe in the vision, you believe in what they're about, you believe in this. I'm telling you, productivity goes through the roof. I mean,
well, that's why it's easy to get behind guys like Cliff, because they always say, what is it? Because there is a saying, and I've heard it a million times, but I'm going to butcher it. It's just, it's about respect, essentially. And it's, you know, you can lead with the hammer.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if they respect you, it doesn't matter how you say it, because they want to get it done because they respect you.
Exactly.
And the thing is, it's really, really hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's really, really hard to respect people that you can't stand. Now, that's not always the case. I have respect for some people.
You can't stand for legitimate reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not because of personality conflicts.
Personality quirks is one thing, but when it comes to the character and when it comes to the person, when you go, you know, when we think of Cliff, he's just a good guy. He wants to help. He's you know.
Well, the other thing is, what we're talking about tonight is messages that move us. The message has to be a message that's coming from a place of care, character, and you back it up. There's one thing for someone to get up and say, you got to be on time.
Yep.
You know, not picking on anybody, okay? So just don't ease up.
No offense.
But I can't get up and say, you know.
Yeah, I hate late people.
Listen, one of my biggest ticks is when somebody's unpunctual. You're unpunctual, you're unfriendable to me.
Yeah.
Doors that way.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say, River, It's one thing for me to get up and say punctuality is this whole litmus test of a man's character.
That's right.
But if I'm always late, I have no right to say that. The point is your message has to be backed up with your own action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not telling the truth. You're just, I mean, you could read 100 books. Cliff just recommended some great business books. And I know I could go around and talk about all the books I read.
But
And I read this
speak
book.
louder than words.
But I would rather rather than me telling you what books I'm reading, I would rather show you what books I'm reading, because you wouldn't have to ask, hey, is he reading on leadership? Is he reading on, this or that?
Well, I think an important thing to keep in mind, and I'm guilty for it. I'm horrible about this, but I'm trying to get better. It's when you're taking in content like a book, if somebody's recommending you a book or a podcast or whatever it is, the point of listening to that book, the point of ingesting that entertainment or whatever the content is not so you can memorize it and just tell other people. It's so you can utilize it. And when you utilize it, that's when the people will ask, well, why are you doing it that way? And that's when you can go,
that's the whole point tonight. Messages that move. You have to be moved first before you can move others with your message. Yeah. You know, the reason why entrepreneurs, I feel like, resonate with me, especially ones who have seen the struggle, is because they know every time I'm talking about it, it comes from a real place. Yep. This isn't something I'm phoning in. This isn't something I'm saying this is the lifestyle I recommend. This is the lifestyle I live. Yep. This is the lifestyle I have tasted and I've seen the value of it. And so I recommend it to others, you know? And so you have to have, I guess it comes down to authenticity. You know, authenticity is worth more than the words you use, worth more than, I can get up and stutter and stammer as long as the audience I'm talking to knows who I am and sees my authentic self and believes in it.
And I think people pick up on that more than, you know, we take for granted how easily it is to sometimes see people that are unauthentic.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you go like, oh, you put the pieces of the puzzle together and then you come up with the conclusion, oh, they're not authentic. But it's that feeling when you're talking to them, it's like, what is that? Why do I feel that way?
Right.
And when you see people, you know, like you and Cliff, and just you can sense that, and it's important. It's important to be genuine to who you are and doing what you believe. You know?
To thy own self, as we talked about in the interview, to our own self be true. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast. I had a great time talking to my friend Cliff. Take advantage of that free coaching call that he's offering to our listeners here. If you forget where he said, you can always just text the word Cliff to 864-507-9696, and we'll get it over to you, 864-507-9696, and we will get the information to you where you can get a trial one-on-one coaching there with Cliff. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of coaching. I coach myself. I've taken coaching. I have done all kinds of things, but he has some ways of being able to help you get out of your own way. I mean, that's what he did for me. I've been on a health journey. This coming October will be 2 years, and it's because of a conversation I had with Cliff. And
yeah. No, I'm agreeing wholeheartedly. It's awesome because I can't tell you how many times we've told you personally, like, hey, you need to quit being fat.
Stop being fat.
Go work out, dummy. But power to the words, you know, choose your words carefully. Like Cliff is saying, Cliff was able to deliver that message.
He was able to speak to the exact reasons why I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, and that's his gift. That's his magic thing. My magic thing is marketing. I can show you how to take point A and point B, put them together and make some money. Yeah. His thing is that he can show people how to get out of their own way. And I think it's just, if you are in leadership, if you're in management, if you're an entrepreneur out there, you have to be able to influence and impact others. And you're not going to be able to if you're not at your highest level, if you don't have that authentic self. Yeah. You know, so work on yourself. I'm telling you, I was talking to someone last night, you know, I just if I could just find someone who's talking about finding someone and da-da-da-da. And my admonition is if you will become the absolute best version of you, if you will raise your game, all of a sudden you're going to attract people that's on that same level. But the reason why you constantly are having people on this level is because that's what you've settled for. And that's what the only thing you can get. And then you get it and you're disappointed. Well, they're this and they're that. And they got this problem. Well, of course they do. But you know what? Get yourself on the game to where you're a Rolex watch. All of a sudden, the only people that's going to be shopping around with you is people that can afford a Rolex watch. And that's what you want. That's what you want. I'm going to get off my high horse now, but I had a great show. Thank you guys. I know you guys have been busy and had all kinds of things going on, but I appreciate you taking time and hanging out with Dad tonight.
Well, big thank you to Cliff for, giving us
shout out Cliff.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good podcast.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you guys next time. And Elite members, we'll see you Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to our show today. If you have any questions or would like to speak with us about your goals, then please call or text us at 864-507-9696. Reach out to us online at terrywilson3.com.